This is the Trading Psychology Podcast. This is VP, creator of No Nonsense Forex and author of the book No Nonsense Forex Trading Psychology. And with me every week is Rob Reinhold.
Hey everybody, this is Rob from Maverick Currencies and Maverick Trading. You know me by now, so that's all I'm going to say.
But what they don't know is you have a little promotion going on over there just for our listeners over at Maverick Currencies. Talk about it.
Well, for your listeners, we do have a promotion here. We've had a couple questions on what we do inside of Maverick Currencies. So we want to offer everyone a 2-week trial membership to the website. Inside of our website is all of our training videos. We don't release a lot of these out to the public. We keep them all proprietary inside of our firm. We want to open up the door a little and let people come in and peek for it. The way it's set up is we have instructions with building a trading plan, and then you do your trading plan development, which means that you practice that, and then you take a test. So every single thing you're doing is going through learning about it, developing your trading plan about it, writing it out, what you're going to do, you practice it, and then you take a test. Now at that point, you know that you are at least proficient enough to go on to the next level. So come on to the website, take some of the tests, see how you do. It's just a really good experience to get a little bit better idea of what we do internally.
Now for episode 10, we alluded to this towards the end of episode 9. It's not something that has like a real direct effect on people's trading psychology, but it's something that just makes everybody feel a lot more secure and just a lot better with the ups and downs of whatever it is they're doing, whether you have a job like waiting tables or whether you're trading, which is something I've experienced, on both sides. If you have other things going on, even if those things are successful or if they aren't, the whole idea of having those fallbacks really, really does wonders for your overall well-being going forward and your trading results too, doesn't it, Rob?
Yes, this episode actually has nothing to do about trading, but it has everything to do about being successful at trading. One of my favorite discussions to have with our traders is whenever we have a trader that has been trading part-time, like they've had a job or had a business or some other thing, and they let me know that, Rob, I'm quitting all that and I'm going to be dedicating full time to my trading. I always jump on the phone with them and have the same conversation. And the first thing I say is, listen, you don't want to do that. Now that always shocks them. And actually, they don't like to hear that because this was the moment. The reason they got into trading was to get to the point where they could quit their job, where they're making enough money to where they could do other things. And I tell them, look, I know that sounds good in theory. Problem is, you don't make more money in trading because you worked more hours at it. That's not how it works. And if you go from working a full-time job where you have 8 hours a day where you're actually doing stuff and producing, the worst thing you could do is then sit down in front of a computer and do nothing for 8 hours because your signals didn't trigger. And what's going to happen, you might be able to sit through it for a day, maybe 2 days, but on that third day, you're going to look down, you're in your sweatpants, and you're going to say to yourself, I got to do something. And you're going to take a trade you shouldn't. All because you need to justify to yourself that you are actually still working. So I tell everyone, I know you think it's going to be easier to trade when you don't have all these other things. But what I'm telling you is it's going to be harder to trade because you're going to be fabricating reasons to click a button to justify you sitting in front of a system. The worst thing you can do is quit everything and sit in front of your system. You have to do other things. And I tell them that, look, I know you want to quit your job, but do you think they'll keep you on as a consultant? Well, yeah, they probably would. Could you work there for 10 hours a week? Yeah, I probably could. Great. Do that because it's going to give you stuff to do, and it's also going to give you income that you can count on.
And that's the biggest part too. I mean, let's not forget, probably the biggest psychological hurdle of them all, going from having that safety net of consistent income to not having it at all. Do you really think that's not going to affect you?
There's no way you can't.
Exactly. So what we're going to talk about today is maybe ways you can take the job you have and maybe transition out of it a bit more slowly, a bit more responsibly, how having other streams of income can actually make that happen and make this transition nice and gentle, so much to the point to where it doesn't even really affect you, and also to where you always, no matter what, have some type of income stream there, because as we all know, trading, no matter how good you are at it, is remarkably inconsistent. dealing with all the psychological stuff we've talked about in the last two episodes can be either extremely lessened or completely go away altogether if your bank account is still okay no matter what happens.
Patrick, I want to share just the first few years of my trading life just to let other people know what to expect and what people go through. I've been doing this now for over 25 years, and I've built up a nice nest egg. I built up nice retirement. I've built up everything very nice. But it wasn't like that in the beginning. When my wife was 7 months pregnant, I actually came home and told her that I wanted to be a professional stock trader and that I was quitting everything and dedicating myself to that. What do you think she thought about that, Patrick?
I'm sure she loved it.
You know what? She actually did. My wife is awesome because she said, great, I believe you, I trust you. And she knew that if I failed, I would simply just work 3 jobs to make ends meet. We wouldn't have starved to death. I was the kind of person that I would have absolutely made it good work. But she got behind me and trusted me. And that first year was great, except for the times it wasn't great. And all of a sudden, I started to look at our finances and say, oh boy, I just took $5,000 out of our account to pay off, mortgage bills, all these things, and I didn't make any money this month. And all of a sudden, I started looking around saying, okay, the math doesn't make sense. So I started doing other things. And some of the other things I started to do is I would take temporary jobs. If anyone had a weekend job that I could make a little money, I took that in the lean months. I also bought houses, fixed them up, and sold them. So I always had a project going on. And sometimes that project would save me when my trading wasn't doing so good because I'd flip that house, I'd sell it and get a big chunk of money in. And then all of a sudden the pressure was off for my trading again. I had to do other things for the first couple years in order to make the income all even out because the income is really inconsistent, especially in those first years and especially if you are undercapitalized. You need 6 figures minimum to make even a dent in what it would cost someone to live. You need a little bit more than that to really make a lot of money at this. So the reality of trading is, in the beginning, you have to have other income streams or you won't make it. This isn't something you can option for. You have to. Unless your family's super wealthy and they drop $1 million in your bank account, you have to take other jobs that have other income to smooth out the income stream coming in. Patrick, did you have to do that?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And my journey, I guess, is in 2 parts, really. I would say that first part, for context, you guys all know I started writing about 2009. I had my waitering job. I was approaching, I was into my 30s, and I realized I was like, holy crap. I'm not good at anything else except for waiting tables. I have no other credentials. Like I'm really, unless I want to start all over again, which, I obviously didn't want to do, I got to figure something else out. Then I discovered trading. I also knew too that even if I made 20% year over year, 20% of my bank account wasn't going to cut it. I was realistic about it. I was like, okay, I need to trade for a company. Believe it or not, I don't know if I ever told you this, but I did apply for a really kind of fly-by-night prop firm back in 2012 when I barely even had like a realistic system to put together. But, you want to get out of the industry so bad, you'll do anything. And I failed and it was horrible because I was like, man, the Forex to me was my one shot. That's my big mistake. It was my one shot. It's not your one shot, but I thought it was my one shot to really get out of this industry and have a happy life as a professional trader. Once I got that nonsense out of my head, and I joined up with you guys, you're not lighting the world on fire your first year. You don't get enough money to do that. So I knew that I was going to have to make other streams of income because this is right about when my restaurant career started getting very inconsistent. Like instead of having shifts 5 days a week, it would be 5 sometimes, then maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 0. So I was like, shoot, I had businesses in the past, they failed, but I was like, I got to start doing them again. So not only did I take another waitering job and a banquet job just to make sure I would always stay afloat, I started 3 other businesses in that time. And it did 2 things. One, it did keep me afloat when everything was inconsistent. I was just getting my feet wet in the world of professional trading. And 2, if I was having a rough go at trading, or if I was having a rough go at my main waitering job, it didn't feel so bad anymore because that wasn't all I had. I had this other thing I can fall back on. I can fall back on my other waitering job or my banquet job Or, one of my businesses was actually starting to generate some income. That's a really good feeling. I no longer felt stuck like I did in the early part of the 2010s, to where it was either this or nothing. I think that's a terrible way to go. I think the degree of difficulty from a psychological standpoint that you're going to have if you have that mentality and you don't have any other ways out is always going to be way higher than it needs to. And so I can't advocate this method enough. I mean, as of right now, I have probably a dozen different streams of income, and I'm very grateful for them because they don't always pay out. I don't see any downside to doing this.
So while this episode is not about trading, it is such an important episode. We really want to lay the groundwork of the reality of the path of becoming a trader. And this idea that you're going to only trade, that's going to be the only thing you do, you click buttons and then you're sitting on a beach drinking margaritas for the rest of your time, that's bullshit. That's not how it works. No, look, maybe there's one person out there that's their life, but for the rest of us, we're going to be building wealth across our whole life. And trading is one of the things we do to build wealth, but it's not going to be the only thing, because it's so healthy for you to, number one, have other income coming in, but number two, have other things to obsess about. I shared with you a little bit about me in the overtrading episode we had. I believe that was episode 5, where all I wanted to do was trade. That's it. And I obsessed over it and how devastatingly bad that was for me. Other things that you can obsess over, they will take mental energy that you would have just wasted staring at a screen and moved it into productive things that actually help your overall wealth grow. Let's spend just a little bit of time here talking about other things you can do to bring in money that isn't going to hurt your trading. Because look, there are going to be some jobs that hurt your trading. For example, if you want to be an anesthesiologist and you also want to trade the US session, sorry, you can't. You just can't. You're going to have to find something else. But there's a whole lot of other things out there that you can do that will work very well within trading. Patrick, what are some things that you have on your list?
So let me just add to your point really quick. If you're going to be something like an anesthesiologist, you may not even have time to trade the daily chart because those hours are long. So you may actually have to pick one or the other there. But I don't think this should be a tough transition for most of you listening right now, because traders are doers, all right? All the lazy people I know would never take to something like trading to where you actually have to take time to build a system and test and then actually put it into motion. Like, we're pretty much a minority. So wanting to do more should not be difficult for you, even if it's something that you may have never done before. You never know until you try. So yeah, we have a list of different types of things you could do right now, actually, to up your income streams. Again, you would be amazed the positive effect it has on your overall psychology in ways we can't even really explain here. The first one, let's be glad we live in the times we do, where this opportunity is now so available. That is to take a second job or to go down part-time to a full-time job and then even add another part-time job to it, giving you two different streams of income. Rob, what are your thoughts on this?
I agree that it's a golden age for working remotely. My son, who is very young, he's learning how to trade. He's in his early 20s. He's not going to make any real money at trading, but he's got a job. Now, he actually just sits on his laptop and works for most of the day, and he can absolutely spend time learning about some trading concepts, read some things. The whole time he's actually making enough money to pay all of his bills. There's so many things out there that you could do. Work from home is absolutely exploding.
You guys know I'm a nomad. Pretty much everybody I meet works from home in some capacity, whether they're a business owner or whether they actually have a remote job. And a lot of these guys have, and I'm doing big air quotes here, 40-hour a week remote jobs, where a lot of that time is spent sometimes doing another job. They're burning the candle at both ends. And they probably put in maybe a legitimate, 35, 40 hours of work, but they get two incomes. That is kind of the beauty of this right now. Even if you have to stay in front of a screen for 8 hours, you can still be doing other things. And the people I know are hustlers, and they want that double income, because it's there now. It wasn't always there before, but it is now. And if your job is taking up too much of your time, just know there are so many remote jobs out there. I actually saw a tweet, Rob, that said, how to get a remote job. Look up remote jobs on Google, find 100 of them, apply to all 100, look at the 20 that actually give you the time of day, pick your one or two favorites and go from there. It's not hard. It's so much, people make it so much more daunting than it actually needs to be. But this chance is available in spades right now. And I'm not sure how long it's going to last. If you have ever thought about doing this and adding that second income stream, I think now's the time.
And one of the things to really think about is getting a job or a contracting gig in a related field of trading. I have a lot of traders that they actually will work on a help desk for like TD Ameritrade or E-Trade, or they'll be in some sort of aspect of the financial world. And while the trading and other things in this world are vastly different, they are similar enough to where they can take a lot of the things they've learned about trading and apply it to their current position, or vice versa. Takes things that they've learned and apply it to trading. I always advise people to take a look at things in the trading industry or in the financial services industry that interest you, that might actually help you out in your trading.
I love that so much because I talked about brick and mortar jobs on my videos too. But I said, hey, the downside is the salaries usually aren't great and you actually have to relocate and go there every single day. And that's not something most people want to do. Some of my traders did it anyway. But working remotely on a help desk or something like that, you're right. That's something that may not have been available back then, or else they outsource it to another country. A lot of those jobs are domestic now. That's a great point. That allows you to kind of have your cake and eat it too.
And staying upon this same theme, why don't you start a business in the trading industry? Now, look, if you're a brand new trader, I'm sorry, you don't have a ton of marketability to offer. But if you've been in this business for any number of years, you have skills that other people are looking for. If you know how to program and program trading systems specifically, there is a market for you. Go out there, get clients, they'll tell you what they want to code. That is going to help you and help them. It's going to bring them some money. You're going to learn a whole bunch of new stuff that might actually help you. You're in the related field. It's helping you out with your trading and helping you out with your bills. Think about trading businesses you can start. If you've been doing it for a while, there's always a need for coaching. There's always a need for people that can do all aspects of this business. Think in terms of other jobs or other business opportunities in the trading space.
I can second this too. Do you guys have any idea how many offers I have had for me to personally tutor somebody on how to trade the system that I teach? If it's coming from somebody else, maybe you can't fetch the same price that maybe I could, but they just want somebody there to hold their hand and help them through. This is out there. And this can go for just regular price action trading too, which we don't even do. As a matter of fact, I would say you would have a better chance teaching that because that's what most people are trading. It just comes down to you putting yourself out there and offering these services. And with social media right now, there are so many ways to do that. If you just put yourself on maybe 3 or 4 different social media platforms, show you actually know what you're talking about, and I guarantee most of you do, you all of a sudden put yourself in a very high tier of expertise just by default. Then you start offering those services. Rob, I know so many people just that do nothing but stay on Twitter and offer services, or they take people to something like Substack and say, hey, you guys already know what I know, but if you want to know the real good stuff, go to my Substack. And so if you guys don't know, Substack's like a blog that you can charge for. I follow 2 Substacks. One is $250 a year. One of them is $130 a year. And I know both these people pretty much make their entire income off these Substacks.
Patreon is another great website.
Yeah, Patreon's great too if you just want to rely on donations. But if you want to rely on steady money, and I think you can do this with Patreon too, actually. Like I said, just with Substack alone, $130 a year, which goes down to, just over $10 a month. It's nothing at the end of the day. If you have taken a few months to establish your expertise on a few different social media platforms, you want to bring people to a Substack. Now, you're probably not going to get a whole lot of business because you haven't really been doing this for a long time. But if you could get 2 people a month, let's say 3 times $130, $390 a month. How much of a burden in your life would that alone ease? And all you had to do was spend 20 minutes blogging maybe once or twice a week. Things like that. And if you just keep at it, these numbers just keep going up and up. Bigger audience you reach, the more experience you have, the more you start bringing to the table. This is how these things start. A lot of you out there are experts on something. And if you're not, you can become one fairly quickly. Just little things like this. I could go on and on, Rob, about multiple streams of income, but when it comes to starting a new business, it's not like it was 15 years ago, to where you have to take out a small business loan and buy a space in a mini mall and set up shop there and buy inventory and do all that. It's so easy right now. Every business I have started has been so cheap to where if I failed, I lost almost nothing. But it had a really good upside. Now I've failed on a lot of those businesses, but so what? I didn't fail at all of them, and now I have these extra streams of income completely independent of everything I do with trading, investing, and broadcasting.
I have a saying that I've said to my kids for years. You'll only do your best work if you're doing something you love. You love trading. You wouldn't be here if you didn't love trading. Why don't you make other areas of trading your business? That's why we've really been talking about find other opportunities in trading. And look, you're going to have other interests as well. Use that passion to turn into a business. My nephew, who is a literal rocket scientist, he's a literal rocket scientist. He loves D&D. Hey, I love D&D too, actually. He started making those little characters. He got into 3D printing, and he started printing these 3D little miniatures for his D&D games, and people said, hey, I want to buy some. And he's actually turned that into a business, and he loves it. He absolutely loves doing it. It never feels like work to him at all. Take a look at your life. Take a look at your hobbies. What are you passionate about? Figure out a way to make some money off of it. If you're one of the rare people that I talk to that say, Rob, I really don't want to work. I really don't want to start a business. I've got enough money. Then I always tell them, put your time and effort into your hobbies. You cannot sit in front of a screen all day. It's the worst thing you could possibly do. You have to have hobbies. Doing what you love will always yield you the best results.
And on that note too, if what you love doing is sitting in front of the screen and watching movies or music videos or whatever the case is, and you have a little bit of charisma to you and you don't mind being on screen, most of my time spent on YouTube that isn't research involved is watching reaction videos. There's even a market for that. So like Rob said, take what you're passionate in now, and I'll even do you one better. There might be things that you would be passionate on if you knew more about it. Like this is just a random example. I actually wish I had somebody I could follow, and I would actually pay for this information if I could find a really good expert on copper. Now, I'm a nerd, so I think copper would be pretty fascinating. If all else fails, maybe I'll become a copper expert and charge for it. Who knows? Something like that. I have another podcast that deals with investing with metals and things like that. If you like that even a little bit, maybe go down a rabbit hole on one of these things. And there could be a real need for that. There's so many directions you can go. You might sit there and say, well, I'm not passionate on much, and the things I'm passionate about don't really sell. Take the things you're curious about and go learn and see what that community's like. See if there's an interest there. And even if there's not, create one. Most of my people are doers, so I don't think I need to have this conversation with the majority of you. But I think there's these limiting beliefs, especially when it comes to multiple streams of income that a lot of people have. Like, oh, what if I fail? Well, if you fail, so what? I failed 100 times. It doesn't mean anything. Oh, well, it's going to be a bear market. Nobody's going to be spending money. Nonsense. There's always people spending money, even in bear markets. Rich people spend money no matter what. Americans have disposable income, compared to other countries, no matter what. There's always a market out there. Oh, AI is going to take over, I'll never rank on Google. That's such nonsense, guys. I say this because I run into these people in restaurants all the time. I would tell them about all the cool things I'm doing, and they would share their ideas, but they would never pull the trigger on them because there's always some limiting belief that was complete nonsense. I would tell them it was nonsense, and they just never did it anyway. So those people are the ones that only work in restaurants and complain about it every day. And I'm glad that's not me anymore. So take that for what it's worth.
I hope this episode has taken anyone who still had this illusion of a trader sitting behind their desk. They're making all this money, and then that's all they do. And they go sit on a beach or do whatever they get in their Ferrari. That's a lie. That's a lie you've been sold. That's not how it works. Traders are focused on generating wealth over their lifetime. Trading is one aspect of it. In my first couple years, I made good money trading. And about 5 years into it, I stopped and I looked around, and I had made good money. But I didn't have a lot to show for it. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, this isn't good. I don't have a lot to show for it. And I realize it's really easy when you're making good money to spend it and to let it go places. And I realized, no, I need to make this money stick. And so I developed my make it stick concept. And my concept was whenever I had a good month, whenever I had a period of time where I had excess earnings on any of my income streams, I took that money out and I put it in a hard asset. Now, the reason I say hard asset, because at the time I was young, I was in my 20s, I didn't yet have the discipline to not trade it. Because at first I remember thinking, I'm going to trade every dollar I ever have. Every dollar I ever get, I'm going to trade it. And I got to a point where I realized, no, you can't do that. You have to put it in other asset classes. Because I didn't have that discipline, I thought to myself, what can I put this money into that's really hard for me to get to? I can get to it if I need to, but it's really hard. The first thing I did is I actually found a company where you can buy the literal stock certificate of McDonald's, of Pepsi, of Coke. And you literally send your money away. It takes about 2 months, and they send you a certificate in the mail. And if you lose this certificate, you're kind of screwed. And for me to get that back to cash, I literally had to mail in the certificate, wait a couple of weeks. They would mail me a check, and then I could deposit it in my bank. I did that for a reason, because I knew I was too impulsive, and I needed to make it stick. Now, I started doing this with just a couple $100 a month, then I went to a couple thousand. At one point, I totaled up those stock certificates, and I had close to $350,000 after 5 years.
Jesus.
I didn't even notice because I was just making it stick. And so I started to do this with other things. I buy gold all the time. I'm not a big fan of gold. Pretty worthless. It sits in a safety deposit box. But you know what? It sits in a safety deposit box. And over time, that thing goes up in value. And if I ever need that money, I can go get it. I now buy art. I own lots of real estate. I own collectibles. Every so often, again, whenever I have a good period of time, I go out and I buy an asset that goes up in value. That is my making it stick. Trading is going to be a little bit of what you do in your life. Focus on the whole thing, and you'll see where you can be when you get older.
So let me present to you the alternative after all we've said, and how great multiple income streams are, how great divesting some of your money into some of these other assets are. Let me present you the alternative of what a lot of people think the end goal is. Let's say you become a professional trader, even with a lot of money, and that's all you do. And you're able to pull in, let's say, $100,000 a year as a professional trader, which is just God tier level trading. So it's not 100K. You're going to have to pay taxes on that. And capital gains taxes being what they are, there's probably going to be a little more than you're comfortable with. On top of that, you are no longer rolling over your profits. So that 100K, unless you don't spend it all, is probably going to be where you top out at for the most part. Is that really the dream? On top of the fact that, Rob, you said, that people have this delusion that retiring and go spending the next 30 years on a beach is somehow the dream. I would say for most of us traders, I can't speak for you, but I can certainly speak for myself. I lived in a beach town for 2 months. After day 3, I was bored out of my mind. I need stuff to do. I could not imagine a life to where I was only doing one thing and then everything else was just me chilling out. I would lose. I would feel like I was in prison.
Patrick, I've told people for years, they will have to pry the mouse out of my dead hand before I stop trading. Yeah. I will never retire, ever.
No, I mean, I'll be doing something I love, whether it's trading, investing, researching, starting businesses, making videos. It took me a while to get all this down and to get these things where I want them. But let me tell you, everybody, it is so worth it when you have, like right now, like content creation is dropping in numbers right now pretty hard because the markets are down. But thank God I have other things. It just doesn't affect me at all. I have faith it's going to go back up again, and I'll just keep cranking these things out until they do. Life is just as good as it was before, even though markets are down. My biggest wish for you is for you to have this level of comfort and security and happiness as well. And this is one of the biggest ways to do it.
And remember, you will only do your best work if you're doing something you love. Take what you love. If it's D&D, jump into that. If it's trading, jump into that. Focus on that. And I promise where you are in 20 years is going to be a very good place.
Amen, Rob. And that's going to wrap it up for episode 10. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Please take action and let us know down in the comments section. If you have multiple streams of income, what are they? And how well are they doing? And do you like them or do you not like them? Or do you wish you were doing something else? Let us know down below. So many people read the comments on YouTube. Even people who listen to us on Spotify, for example, come back to YouTube just to see what the comments say. So let them know. I have a feeling our community does a lot of things. They just don't do one. So let us know what those things are. And we will see you next week. Thank you for joining us here on the Trading Psychology Podcast. This is VP.
This is Rob. Take care, everyone.